Most people don't change because they think they already know what's right, what matters, who they are. And to be fair, that's what we're taught to do. Pick a side, defend it, stay consistent. But life doesn't work like that. The longer you pay attention, the more things stop being so clear. Strong opinions soften, certainty fades, and the questions get better. Not easier, just better. Because somewhere between what you believe and what's actually true, there's a gap, and most people avoid it. That's where the work is. That's where you learn. That's where you grow. That's where things start to make sense again. Not perfectly, not permanently, but enough to move forward. This isn't about being right. It's about seeing clearly and being willing to change your mind when it matters. So don't bet against the ones who question things, especially when they question themselves. This is Chasing Common Ground.
Welcome back to Chasing Common Ground. And today I've brought someone who I think is kind of like the Batman of the fitness industry, Blake Parado. And the reason why I feel like you're the Batman of the fitness industry is because you're all sneaky, but being super supportive. Like it started with, I would notice that you were one of the people who listened to more podcasts than I did. And it was just, I was like, okay, well, what's this guy doing over there in Hawaii? And then I just noticed just little subtle gestures where you're supporting people. Like, for example, right now you're wearing some of my swag. So stay kind, stay strong, keep going shirt. And I really appreciate that. So I just want to make sure that you know that. And you're very supportive of my Substack as well. And I see just the way that you treat other people in the industry. I see the way that you treat your team. You're always enhancing their education, helping them with just like the critical advice that they need. And so today's episode, we're going to kind of focus on that. But first and foremost, I just wanted to give you the chance to introduce yourself to my audience as if they don't know who you are.
Wow, Batman industry. I never heard that one before. I was like, where is he going with that? I was it's a good thing. But yeah, like I said, I'm from Hawaii, born and raised. I've been a personal trainer for like 15 years. I own a training studio for 8 years. And yeah, like you said, I just want to help leave the fitness industry a little bit better than when I came in, just like anything else. It's an easy industry to get into, right? But it's a hard industry to stay. For the most part, I assume everybody that goes into the industry does it for the right reasons of wanting to help people. Because if you just went into the industry to make money, there's probably a lot of other industries you can go into to make way more money for a lot less effort. So I give everyone the benefit of the doubt that they have good hearts in the beginning. So I wanted to, but yeah, I see so much turnover in this industry. Some people that maybe better that they are gone, but I've also seen a lot of people that just tried their hardest and just couldn't make it work financially, even though they really want to be in it. Even when I used to be like an independent contractor out in my old gym, I'd probably come across 30 trainers there. I don't think anybody, and that's 10 years ago, I don't think anybody from that gym is still training people outside of like the original owners of the gym that I can think of. Maybe like one or two left. I was like, that's a crazy turnover.
Yeah.
And so and especially when I go to these conferences and meet people like you and all our other friends that are really doing it for the right reasons and really trying their best, I just want to see everyone continue to succeed.
I want to pause here for a second because this connects directly to the kind of conversations that we have on this show. Chasing Common Ground has never been about hacks, shortcuts, or chasing attention. It's about long-term thinking, craft, and building something that actually lasts. And the same philosophy is why I built my podcast course. It's about fundamentals and foundations. How to start a podcast, how to structure it, how to stay consistent, and how to build simple workflows so your show fits into your life instead of competing with it. The course is updated constantly with gear reviews, standard operating procedures, AI tools, and best practices. It's not because things change fast, but because clarity matters. I want to share a quick clip from someone many of you already know about, Andrew Coates. He's a good friend of mine, and he is the host of Live Free and Diet Hard, a published writer, speaker, and longtime coach. Here's what he had to say.
I'm going to give a shout to my producer because he's a beauty. Chris Little, he's the one who does all the back-end stuff. He does all the slides. He's the one who puts together all the ads. And I couldn't do this stuff without him. He's great. He's got his own podcast. but he's also got courses and he will answer your questions if you guys are literally interested in podcasting. He's great at this stuff. So go check him out. Just search Christian Little on Instagram. I followed him. You'll find him. He's super.
If you're thinking about starting a podcast, or you already have one and want it to feel simpler, more intentional, and more sustainable, you can learn more at christianlittle.com/podcast course. And as a thank you to listeners of Chasing Common Ground, you can save $50 with the code Common Ground, one word, all caps, at checkout. Pricing is in Canadian dollars. Thank you, and now let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, bringing up the conferences, we're, I think, under 30 days away from the Real Coaches. And that's one that I like to highlight personally, just because I personally like how people get the opportunity to mix and mingle as much as possible. Like there's no limitations, there's no constraints. It's just a matter of getting everybody into the same room. And when I say that, like it includes the speakers. Because in most cases, like the speakers are often going to have an extensive amount of experience or credentials, but we get to remember that everybody's just humans and everybody's just working hard to make a go of it in the industry, even at advanced stages. Like there's a wide spectrum of business success in the room, but everybody does their best to treat each other as peers, which I think is important because that's how you can kind of like a rising tide lifts all ships or whatever variants of that we're going to use, but it's so true. So Blake, what was your experience going to that summit for the first time? Did you have any apprehension? How did you hear about it? What was it like after your experience was complete?
Well, how did I hear about actually? Actually, I think I went to Raise the Bar first that year. What was that? The year before, 2023, I went to Raise the Bar first. And I briefly met Aram there, and I think he mentioned his conference. I think that's the first year he had his Real Coaches Summit, but I didn't attend that one because I think it was like the week after Raise the Bar. And that was like my first conference that wasn't like a certification or like a seminar kind of thing, just a full-on conference. I've never been to one of those before probably because before the last time I went to any kind of type of travel for a seminar was before the pandemic. And I didn't have employees back then, so it was really tough to have to completely close the gym down for a few days and not have any income and make it out to the conference.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first year I finally kind of got the systems going where I could break away and pretty much nobody noticed. But yeah, so I think I heard about the Real Coaches Summit briefly from Raise the Bar, and then I believe they kept talking about it like on Andrew's podcast and stuff. And eventually, and then I saw the lineup and everything, and it's like, oh, this is definitely one I got to be at. And it was a lot easier to get to Vegas than like Dallas for me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and as soon as going to that first one was just such a great, different vibe and experience from even though technically Raise the Bar was the only other conference I've been to of that style, I've seen other expos and stuff like that before. And like expos and like the big expos weren't really my vibe, even though I've never been to one. Kind of like raves, like I already know aren't my vibe, even though I've never been to one. What was I saying? But yeah, the way that Aram did it was just so you could tell Aram has been to a lot of other conferences, and kind of the same way I built my gym off things that I've been to so many gyms, and I kind of just took the things I liked from other gyms and tried to apply it. And then the things that I didn't like and other people didn't like, I tried to not do that at my gym. I feel like he did that same thing with this conference where he's been to these conferences. He took the things he liked, like the mingling with each other and the speakers. I don't know if he's ever been to a conference that had good food, but I guess he tried to incorporate food at the event, make it as easy as possible to book rooms and transportation stuff. Actually don't even need transportation, right? And again, try to eliminate the things that kind of frustrate us at other conferences, right? Like only not having access to most of the speakers, and the speakers you do get access to, you usually have to pay extra. Almost always have to go off the venue for food. Getting to the venue in general is usually tough. especially for me coming from Hawaii. That I mean, I'm pretty sure no one feels sorry for me flying from Hawaii, but coming from Hawaii, there's some of the places don't have direct flights to, right? But Vegas is like the easiest place to get to, and the easiest place to get around, or at least for me, Vegas is the easiest place to get around because I've been there so many times. And yeah, so he kind of just took the things that are great about conferences, eliminated all the things that might frustrate us about conferences, and then kind of kind of filtered out the speakers to people that he knows that are real coaches, literally, that are in there for the right reasons and want to give back. And it's one of those things that if you've been to other conferences, you'll definitely love it. If you've never been to conferences because you're like, I don't know, is it like, what's the point? It's just for networking and stuff. It's really hard to explain until you finally go. But once people go, they get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you spoke to a lot of things that remind me of some of the conferences that I've been to aside from that one. And food is a big one. Like going off site to find food or to gather for food, even if it's a good experience overall, is logistically more challenging than having to just walk into like a banquet room and then everybody's already together. So like from a time return perspective, like you get so much time with your people and just the quality of food. Like I don't know if a ramen is like there with a notepad telling him what not to feed us and what to feed us. He gets it pretty dialed in. Like there's always outliers who they need especially particular considerations. And there are oftentimes there's ways to make considerations, but sometimes they might have to prep a few things for themselves. But for the average fitness professional, we have the makings to hit our macros. Like the thing that stood out to me the most was breakfast, where it's like you got your regular eggs and you just got your straight egg whites on them. Now this is real. I've never seen that before because I'm just used to like all-inclusive resort type banquets or just very minimalist buffets and stuff. But yeah, that experience is solid. But I'm going to segue us because there's some other elements that kind of go into this. One of the things that stands out to me is that a lot of continuing education stuff, or even just like books, you're always immersing yourself in that. I'm curious to know, like, what is your North Star for deciding what you're going to do, what you're not going to do when it comes to even just like just short 2-day workshops, 1-day workshop, or books that you immerse yourself in?
Oh, my North Star, what to do and not to do. Oh, my wife was nice enough to set up my books here so I look smart.
Perfect.
And in Luca style of color coded.
Yeah.
Oh, what is my North Star? Usually because of what, like the people we follow, if like Luca or Andrew or like even Mike Dola recommends a book, then usually I'll just order it right there. To the point that it gets kind of piled up. And my wife's like, "Are you even going to read these?" I was like, "Eventually." But for me, it's like if they recommend a book and I like write it down somewhere, I'm going to forget. So if they recommend the book and then it's like, oh, I'm going to order it and then deal with it later. So North Star. Yeah, again, like first I kind of just have people that we follow that I respect, kind of dive into their things a bit, whether it's Instagram. And then, like you said, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And then if they talk about, usually if they mention something or that interests me or again, recommend the book, that's when I'll order the book to dive a little deeper, or courses that they recommend, then I'll dive a little deeper. There's not really any specific thing that I focus on in terms of education. I just kind of absorb as much as I can because I find it fun. Even though I have, I guess, quote unquote, a lot of experience, like 15 years of personal training, and it was a very dense 15 years. Like I got a lot of experience really fast. And yeah, I feel like I'm a really good trainer already, and I could probably technically not learn anything else in the future and probably still keep a really good business going and make a living and stuff. But for me, whether it's pride or whatever, I just want to keep being the best I can, or like in my mind, like be the best coach around, but at the same, be the best coach around while, like you said, bringing everybody else up, not be the best coach around by tearing other people down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause again, like even if, no matter what, I can't train everybody. And not everybody's going to be the right fit for our gym. So if ever, yeah, other people that need training and stuff, that whether even just on this island, I want them to have great experiences too. So I feel like if I continue to, if people see me continuing to better myself and like raise other trainers up, the other trainers are going to do the same thing. And because I'm sure you've seen working at other gyms that sometimes when you're working with other trainers, it can be kind of like a guarded industry where, what you call kind of scarcity mindset where, yeah, I've seen situations in other gyms where like, if you just like talk to another trainer's clients for a little, like if they talk to you, they get all like, well, what are you doing talking to my client kind of thing. When, yeah, like that's, if you're just like kind of fighting over clients and stuff like that and trying to hold on to what clients you have, it's not going to grow the industry. It's not going to get any better or get any easier for people to make it in the industry. If we all just, if we just kind of grow together and everybody has good experiences, then there's enough people to go. There's definitely more enough people to go around where everybody can have full rosters of clients and help people. And still there's, even if everybody on you're just talking to on my island, if everyone had full rosters, there'd still be people left over that need to get into fitness and get in shape and get healthy.
Yeah. And statistically, that applies for a lot of the people that will, I mean, I would assume all the people, but just in case like somebody's in a very busy sector of New York listening to the podcast or something, I'm going to say a lot of the people, because I was having a conversation with a gym owner in Edmonton, and he kind of laid out the statistics. He was like, there's probably about 25,000 people in this region who are ready to be our ideal client. And of that, like each of us only need like 30 of those people to make a really good living in the fitness industry. And like, even though sometimes the industry feels like it's super, super saturated with like lots of online people, or maybe saturated with lots of like up and coming new studios and like specialty gyms and stuff, that statistic is always going to play in our favor. And so then it just comes to attitude and mindset and logistics, which is a segue that I want to emphasize, because I think you raised a really good point when you were saying it's sometimes more difficult to do continuing education because if you don't have like a diversified like income setup, then you literally have to like shut off the lights of your business and make no money for the time that you got. And you talked about how your business is a little bit different before the pandemic than after the pandemic. Most of that focusing around like how many employees you might have had, if you had employees, stuff like that. So let's dive into that a bit. Like, what was life before? What happened to make that change? And what would you tell yourself from before knowing what you know now?
So yeah, before, when we opened the gym in 2018, and really it was just out of like necessity. I never really had the intention of opening a gym unless I really had to, because I worked for both private gyms and rented out of like bigger independent gyms, or like open gym style gyms where you pay rent and stuff. And I kind of knew from that opening a gym, if you want to just train clients, which is the most fun part about personal training, opening a gym requires you to learn a totally different skill set besides just training clients. But anyway, like it just came to a point where my roster size and the style of training I did required me to create my own space for it. There wasn't really a space to rent out or anything like that. So the whole long story of me finding my gym, ended up opening my own gym, but by myself, just me and my wife. Luckily for me, my wife has good business sense and kind of ran things on those ends. So even though I opened the gym, I could still focus mostly on just training the clients while my wife kind of worked full steam ahead like a runaway train with like no organization, and just train people from 5 a.m. all the way to like 9 p.m. every day. And then my wife kind of just like organized the pieces, the mess I leave behind. Even back then I was training close to 80, 70, 80 hours a week, pretty much every day. morning and night, except for weekends, it was just mornings. And we had a lot of clients. I built the roster really fast up to, I think like definitely over 100 clients. I think about 120 clients after the first year. And we were making good money and stuff. And for me, like, I don't really get like burnt out energy wise or anything. And I didn't feel any yeah, it's tiring, but it's like, I could keep doing this forever if I had to. It's no problem. The only thing is, and there was like, the only thing is there was no organization or anything like that. People would just text me to come in, and if they wanted to do their sessions, I would just kind of throw it onto Google Calendar. When I ran group classes, people would just buy like unlimited classes and come in and write their name on the whiteboard, or I'd have like packages and then they'd write their name on they just come in and write their name on the whiteboard, and I'd put it in later, which would take a long time. Writing the people's programs was just like pen and paper, and doing that for like 80 something personal training clients that just threw them in a filing cabinet after, and that thing was busting at the seams really fast. The environmentalists weren't very happy with that, but it was going fine in my book. But once the pandemic hit and things had to shut down, it allowed us to kind of, okay, we can't take a break, take a step back and reorganize this thing. And since, my wife had a lot of time to talk and stuff during the pandemic, we were like, okay, this is technically fine, but if something were to happen to me, like if I were to get hit by a bus or something crossing the street to the gym, or if I break my back powerlifting or something and can't work, then we'd be pretty screwed, because the gym is pretty much most of our income. We had disability insurance and all that, but still, like, if something were bad to happen to me, then we'd be pretty screwed. And also, like, ever wanted to start a family and stuff, 80-hour work week is not gonna fly. So yeah, during the pandemic, we were able to kind of reorganize. We got a better CRM, got app for people to schedule, condensed the hours down, hired a business mentor that at the same time helped us figure out how to hire our first employees, systemize everything. And then 2021, I think it was 2021 that we hired our first employees, like first round of employees, and then just kind of took it from there. Luckily, I don't have any it was actually a pretty smooth transition hiring employees. The first crop of employees were people I've already, even though we put it like on Instagram and I think Indeed ads and stuff, but my first crop of employees were like 3 people I knew before. Like one was a person I knew from powerlifting. One was a former client, actually, and 2 were former clients from my old gym when I first started personal training. So it's people I already had connections with, and it was a smooth transition. And pretty much every employee that I hired either were from I knew previously or have come across previously, or like from a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. So there were smooth transitions. And now, even though I still get some training hours in, I focus more on kind of mentoring my employees to be better coaches, like you were saying. I'm trying to create a environment where where they get paid well currently, and then they have a path for future growth if they want it. Just like we were talking about how the Real Coaches Summit kind of took out the things that kind of frustrate him. As an employer, having working for other gyms, there are frustrations of working for other gyms that I remember coming up. Like the biggest frustration is probably like pay, but pretty much everybody is frustrated with pay at some point, and the work environment and stuff. And I think too, I think most trainers, to kind of side tangent, most trainers, and most people probably most people probably shouldn't or don't want to be like true entrepreneurs. Most trainers anyway. Most people would probably be happy just like making enough money, just training clients for the amount of hours that they want, and then move on with the rest of their day. But I think most trainers are just kind of forced into sort of an entrepreneurship role, because that's the only path they see to making enough income to support their family and their goals. But becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's gym ownership or just having your own business online or in person, requires you to learn all these other skill sets that probably most people have no interest in doing. and aren't very good at.
Yeah.
So if I can kind of eliminate that side for them and just have them focus on the thing they enjoy, which is training clients, and they can provide for their family and everything, that would be, that's kind of, that would fulfill me as well, knowing that I gave that to them. And then on the other end too, we attract a lot of interns because we're right next to the university here. If I can kind of help that next crop come in with with more excitement and more vision for a better foundation and more vision, like this, you can actually make a career out of this personal training thing. And that just helps everybody else moving forward.
Definitely. Like, there's a lot to think about because I've talked to some people about like the programs that are put in place to kind of get people into the industry, like even the multi-year certifications or like kinesiology degrees, stuff like that. And oftentimes what people find when surveying like graduates of that program is they find that the survival rate essentially of professionals that go through those paths is sometimes it drops off because people don't have the business acumen to kind of like employ themselves or stay in the game. And on the other side, sometimes people who are in like a model where it's like all they have to do is train people, then they kind of get distracted by like, well, why am I not making the full amount? Because they're not valuing what it takes to ensure that there's always like a steady flow of new client leads, that there's always going to be the same amount of amenities in the bathrooms, that the lights are on, that the ceiling isn't leaking, your roof isn't leaking, all those little things. So I think some of the biggest takeaways that people can realize is that when you're in the fitness industry, you're not diving into it because you want to have fun being wealthy. And it's not that that's not an opportunity that a person could have. It's just they have to realize that it's like you're in this industry because by definition, you're a people person and you have a little bit of creativity and grit to where you can survive any of the bumps in the road. Because even with interpersonal connection that we have with our clients, like they can have a real bad day. We have to help them through it because we're often their like first point of contact. We're like the person that they trust the most. And then on the other side of things, just looking at helping people detach from their ego, I think can be helpful in longevity in the industry because the less people are attached to their ego, like even listening to you talk, you know your experience and you know your credentials and you know your accomplishments, but you're able to quickly detach from ego. Like you're like, hey, I got all these books to make me look smart. But like the truth is that you have a high comprehension of a lot of the principles discussed in the books. And the books are more like a refresher for you, whereas somebody on a different level, they'd be understanding a lot of these concepts for the very first time. They'd be, oh, like time blocking. Wow, what a revolutionary concept kind of thing. So I'm hoping that people start to see like the value of like surrounding themselves with people with experience like yourself, or even just understanding how much of a limiter ego can be in our progression. Because like where even if we really want to do better than somebody else, that's not going to serve us at all. It's just going to have us spinning our wheels, staring out the window at somebody else. But if we're able to kind of like own up to the fact when we have like a shortcoming and do something about it, then we're probably going to make it a lot further. And an experience that I had recently with a new couple that I started training, they moved here from Vancouver and they had just an incredible trainer in Vancouver. And they're like, if we could have packed him and brought him with us, we would have. And I was, okay, what'd you like about him? And they were like, well, he listened to feedback really well. And for me, that's just something that I've sort of like done because I always felt like I was a shitty trainer. So I was like, if somebody has feedback for me, I'm going to take it super serious. I'm going to do everything that I can to be better. And then that just kind of compounded over the years. And I still kind of have that belief. I'm like, I'm not that great. I got to listen to their feedback. I got to make sure that based on them, they're having a good experience. And so that was my mission. I was like, okay, everything that we do, I'm going to at least read body language or just bluntly ask them, like, what did you think about that? Did that make sense? Did you have fun? And I just treat it session by session and let it compound. And that's sort of something that newer trainers, newer coaches might not have been taught, because like the textbooks and stuff, it kind of goes over this like system, and you follow the system of progression, regression, periodization, structured check-ins, all this stuff, because they kind of want you to have like something to follow. But it loses out on the soft skills that could completely save a person's whole career. Like where if you can see that they're really hating an exercise and you're on your second set, you might be better off to switch to another exercise instead of doing the third set. And it's like, from a biomechanical perspective, if you supplement the next exercise as something similar, it's not going to have a net negative effect on them. They're more likely to stay in the gym for next time. Whereas if you push and do that third set, the exercise that my clients kind of despise is often that bear hold alternating arm reach, because they feel like it destroys them, especially when I'm like very specific to not have them hiking their hips up in the air. And it's just little subtleties like that for people can make such a big difference. But now I want to turn the table back over to you. I know that you're a big appreciator of dogs, and I'd love to hear more of that, because that's sort of like, that's a way that I can connect to a lot of people. It's whenever I'm with family or friends that have like a family dog, like the dog is the one that I befriend the fastest, because I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit nervous or anxious, and I got my support dog here. So what was the origin between your involvement with everything that you do with your crew of dogs?
Sure. What was the question again? Involvement with dogs?
You have multiple dogs in your home.
Mhm.
From what I've gotten to know about you, it goes beyond just being a pet owner. Like there's a lot of compassion that goes into it all. How did that first come to be? Has it just been like a lifelong thing, or was there like a spark in life where you're like, okay, we got to make sure we always have dogs around?
Yeah. But I mean, we had dogs growing up in my family home, but weren't as close with those dogs and stuff. They're more outside dogs, and really the connection with dogs more so start, well, my mom got a family dog, like a little Chihuahua Brussels Griffon dog, which is funny because my mom used to make fun of women who would carry around the dogs in their purses and stuff, like Paris Hilton style.
Yeah.
And then when she got that dog, she became that person. And then she got it after, like she kind of got why people love their dog so much. And then when me and my wife Carrie first met, she already had our dog Kobe that's all over our wall and stuff. He unfortunately passed away just last year, but we met in 2011 and he was turning 2 years old. So he was still kind of on the puppy side. But he's been in our life from the very beginning and been through all our life changes together. And we were just talking about it last night, why it hits her so hard that he's gone, even though it's been over a year, is because he's been with us from when we first met. We were still both finishing up college. She was moving up around apartment. We were just getting jobs. Like I just got my personal training certification when we met. I didn't even have my first personal training job yet. So he's been through all of that, from my personal training journey, from not even having a job all the way through opening a gym and it being established, from her going from job to job to eventually becoming specifically a pet photographer inspired by him, and establishing her business, buying our home together. And really the biggest motivation for buying a home was for him, because he's had to live in our small apartment with nowhere to move for his whole life. We were really adamant on eventually getting him a house with a yard, which we did. He was there through our marriage, obviously, and even was part of our wedding. So yeah, he's been with us for all our life events. So, and he's all over there's a giant mural of him in our gym and stuff. So and then the reason we have multiple dogs now is he was a little bit, fear aggressive, because when my wife he was a literal rescue. Like my wife found him as a puppy abandoned in a park, and then just no one claimed took him to the local humane society and no one claimed him or anything. So she ended up keeping him before we met and everything. But back then she lived in an apartment with her parents that didn't allow pets. So he had to kind of be kept hidden until, so he didn't really get exposed socially to people and stuff for like a whole year and stuff. So he kind of developed some fear aggression. That got better with training, but we still didn't trust him like with strangers and stuff. What was I saying? But yeah, so a lot of the things were kind of built around him. Like the reason she became a pet photographer was because we couldn't have a stranger do photos for us for our family photos, because she would just be like barking or lunging at him and would never take nice pictures. Opening our gym, even when it came to opening our, so she had to learn to develop her skills as a pet photographer and became, to me, unbiasedly, the best pet photographer in Hawaii, if not the world. And for me, like one of the biggest positives of opening the gym was that with our big turf and everything, now he had a place to run around. We would pretty much have to take him to the park every day, but even when we take him to like the park and beach, we have to kind of be like on alert to make sure no people or dogs are coming too close.
Yeah.
At the gym, we could just bring him in after hours, lock the doors, and then he can run around free. So he loved that. Yeah. So, but because he wasn't great around other dogs and stuff, he was the only dog in our household up until the last couple of years when we got our golden retriever, Bella. And even that was, we were so hesitant on getting another dog until that finally happened. There was an adjustment period, but then once they got used to each other and they loved each other, we could tell that she might have added some life to his years in terms of like someone to play with and energy wise.
Yeah.
And then seeing those two together, like, okay, having multiple dogs isn't so bad. I mean, if it was up to my wife, we'd probably have like 10 dogs in the house, but yeah. And then after he eventually passed, we've always wanted to try fostering to give back, but obviously we couldn't with Kobe around after he passed. And a couple months in, and when Bella was by herself, we started fostering a bit. And I don't know if you ever fostered, but it's pretty tough to give the dog back.
Yeah.
So like the first foster we had was adopted very quickly, and then the second foster ended up being a foster fail, which is our dog now, and Cappy. So our fostering career lasted and then I think we fostered one more dog after that. So our foster career lasted about 3 dogs. And then now we have 3 dogs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like that story because it's something I've kind of observed from the sidelines and understood the value of pets and how integral they are to the different seasons of life. And I agree, like a lot of people over the years have encouraged me to like foster a dog. And I know that like I would cave so fast. It doesn't matter what the dog looks like, what kind of dog it is. Like if that dog and I have a connection, we're just 2 peas in a pod, I'm gonna take care of that dog. Like I'm not letting somebody else take it over unless that person's just like the nicest person in the whole world, in which I would make an accommodation. But it's just having more interconnectedness, whether it's through pets, whether it's through people, is such a life enhancer. And it's what you said about how your dog was with you guys through all these really pivotal, meaningful moments in life. And similar can be said for how trainers wind up being for their clients and stuff. Because you talk to a trainer that's been in the game for maybe over 7 years, over 10 years, over 20 years in some cases. And the way that they'll reflect on their clients is like, oh yeah, me and this client, we went to this country last year, or this client and I, we share seasons tickets for this basketball team. Like the web starts to grow and grow and grow, and you realize like how impactful it is to be in this industry. And it's the people who have a disconnect from that where they're like, oh, clients, I don't spend time with my clients. I go into my fancy like theater room and I just keep to myself. And when I have to work, I go in there, I train them, and I leave. And that's where the volatility of the industry comes into play, because they lose sight of the fact that there's an opportunity to make really meaningful connections with clients while staying in our school, while having our healthy boundaries. but still just like getting more out of life.
I want to pause this conversation for a second, and it's not to shift gears, but just to acknowledge something. The store at store.invigoratetraining.com isn't really just about merch. It's my way of staying connected with this community of people who's followed along with me throughout my 20s and now into my mid-30s. You'll find women's fitted racerbacks with the line, "I might look normal, but deep down I question why I agreed to do 40 push-ups per day." Because sometimes humor comes after you've done the work. And there's the legacy CL gear, the hat and the toque that you see me wearing all the time, along with t-shirts that say, "Don't bet against the quiet ones." Because often the underdogs are the biggest game changers in life. There are custom shoes that I designed myself with the mantra, "Stay kind, stay strong, keep going," built right into the design. And there's also Park Far Away Club stickers and reusable bags for all your shopping needs. Additionally, I've created a line of fully human apparel, a reminder that self-improvement isn't just a one-size-fits-all template, it's personal. If we were all the exact same, we'd never truly be human. All pricing on the website is in Canadian dollars, shipping is inclusive, and your orders are often shipped domestically. This helps avoid tariffs or extra fees. This store exists because of you, and my career exists because of you. I'm genuinely grateful you're here. I'm grateful for all the people who work with me, and I'm so excited that we get to build something meaningful together. If anything here resonates, you can find it at my store at store.invigoratetraining.com. And thank you for being part of my world.
So I have a couple more questions for you, Blake. And one of them is, what is a goal that is kind of brewing on your mind that you seriously think about that you hope to come to fruition in the next 5 to 10 years?
Goal in the next 5 to 10 years. That's a good one. And I just finished reading Jonathan Goodman's Unhinged Habits. I don't know if you finished that or read that already.
I got the audiobook. I'm like 75% of the way through.
Okay, not to spoil the ending, and I was just talking to my wife at dinner last night, and it was like, it kind of, like you said, like reading books, of course I learn from the books, but a lot of it is like kind of validating that I'm hopefully doing the right things or I'm doing okay with what I do. Cause yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And like, you just try to do your best. And it's like, am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough and stuff? So a lot of times I wonder, like, yeah, am I doing enough? Like, should I be doing more? Sometimes I'm like, should I be doing like podcasts? Should I be creating more content and stuff like that? Or doing more community events and everything, even though our gym's doing really well. But then like the book kind of talks about like, I don't do those things because like at first I thought like, am I just lazy? Like that I'm not doing more, even though I know I could, like, because I'm so protective of my time, so busy, like watching baseball and playing video games in my free time and stuff, right? But then John's book kind of validated like we're all in this road of doing more, and then for what purpose, right? And emphasizing doing things that bring you joy or that lights you up, kind of thing. And for me, like, I mean, I like doing like other people's podcasts, like that lights me up. It's fun doing these things to have conversations, but the thought of me having my own and doing the editing and video and figuring all that stuff out is like, I don't think that brings me any joy whatsoever. And then the same for like shooting content. I remember we were shooting content all through the pandemic and stuff. And it was like, if it wasn't for like for Kobe being there, our videos to like interrupt them and play and stuff and make it fun. If it was just like my wife staying at the camera and then shooting things and me talking and the exercise, like this would be so miserable. It's like, so it's like, yeah. So it kind of validated, like, if I know for a fact that those things aren't going to like add to my life or bring me fuel and stuff, it's like, and just don't do them.
Yeah.
And just focus on the things I enjoy doing, which is, yeah, running the gym and then just doing like, yeah, and doing things for my family and stuff. So going back to your question, that pretty much did not answer your question of their goals in the next 5 to 10 years. I hope to, yeah, just keep doing what we're doing and keep I wouldn't say like trying to exactly grow the gym because we're not at complete capacity, but we're at a pretty high level. Just kind of bring up the floor, so to speak. So continue to try to keep educating and bringing up my trainers and kind of getting feedback from them on what they want from their future because they're still in their late 20s. One just turned 30, so what they're like 5 to 10 years, like 5 years from now for them is a lot bigger deal than like 5 years from now for me, right? Like they're probably gonna go through a lot more life changes in the next 5 years than I probably will, hopefully. So yeah, I try to be on them more. Okay, like, are you guys dying for your future, and what does that look like, and how, like, let's map it out, how we can make it work here, or if we don't think it can work here, let me help you do your next steps and stuff like that, and then keep trying to improve the internship program again too, to kind of, I try to make it a little better every year, learn from the semesters before to maybe, hey, maybe it'll actually be like something that's official. Like people actually, I have got inquiries already from people from like the mainland, like calling in just to fly in to do my internship. And I'm like, for like how many times I'm like, oh, if you're already moving to Hawaii, you're more than welcome to come, but please don't like reorganize your life to move to Hawaii just to do my internship. I don't think it's mostly designed for the college students to get their credit. And then, yeah, maybe it will get to the point where it's like, oh, it's worth people moving here for just to do kind of like a Mike Boyle, Eric Cressy level internship kind of thing.
Yeah.
And besides that, yeah, I'm not really sure. I cut like, again, I do have done like those 5-year plans in the past, but I don't think a single one has ever happened the way it said. We laugh and look back at like, well, we made a couple of 5-year plans in the past, and it's like pretty much I mean, we've accomplished most of the things on it, but not in the path that we saw. And it looked completely different than what we thought it was going to be. I've always been on the style of just doing my best currently and not really worrying too much about what happens planned for the future, but it's like, just kind of knock out the things I'm supposed to do now. And usually things tend to work out, and not worrying about things that may or may not happen.
Totally. I mean, that was a really good way to answer the question because it gets people thinking about all the different possibilities that can come up for them. And the reason why I like to highlight people's goals is because while my podcast sometimes slows down and speeds up, I'm always going to kind of keep it as something that continues to evolve and grow. And one of my favorite things to do is to go back into the episodes that are like from 2018, 2019, 2020, and find some of the people that I knew back then who I may have interviewed again, and just like do contrast, comparison. And a lot of times, very few people who set that 5-year goal, very few people like do something that is identical to what goal they set. But having set that goal, it subliminally encourages them to make more like risks and bold moves to get closer to that goal. And then the final thing that they found just happened to be what they were happiest doing. Like I see people take a certain path in their career where the elements that they're doing in their work are things that they enjoy the most, kind of thing. And I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, you should just most people go into this industry because they should love fitness in general. So yeah, at the end of the day, you got to find work that you enjoy. Either, yeah, find work that you enjoy that supports your family, or if you have to, find something that you might not like as much, but makes enough to support your family, and then do the thing you enjoy.
Exactly. So now the final question for you, and this stems back to the origin of the podcast. I used to ask this question all the time, and I paused because I felt like it was cringe. But now that I've listened back to old episodes, I'm like, I think I was on something because people gave me some pretty cool answers, especially if they really meant what they said. So the question for you is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone on how to live their life to the fullest in the most authentic way, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh, perfect. I think it's kind of what I just said. Like you got to find something you enjoy and do that. And I'd say, yeah, find something you enjoy. You can find a way to pay your bills doing pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I think that where people come, it's just the thing that people forget is that we're supposed to be fitness professionals, and they forget the last word, professional. And to me, to be a professional means that you work hard for a long time to be the best or one of the best in the world at that thing that you're doing. And then you hopefully get paid to do that thing. It's just like when we play sports and stuff. Like we play sports. I played baseball growing up. I was okay. I was barely good. I worked really hard to barely be good enough to play for my high school team. But no way did I ever think like, yeah, I'm going to get paid to play baseball one day. When you think of professional baseball players or professional athletes, they are the best in the world, top 0.1% of what they do. And then they make money doing that. Whereas some people go into the fitness industry and it's like they're barely good at what they do and expect to get paid a lot. Yeah, you got to start somewhere, which is why you should start working for somebody first to develop those skills. But it's like, it's funny to go back to before where you said like, oh, I have no ego and stuff. My wife would probably laugh if she heard you say that, because she's like, you have such a big ego. And it's like, and I joke around about having a big ego too. But I think like, yeah, having a big ego / having, I feel like I'm confident in what I do. Like, yeah, I feel like if you put me in like a room or like they held some type of like personal training competition and you had to show off your skills as a personal trainer, I think I can hold a candle to pretty much anybody. But I also know that even though I think I'm pretty good at what I do, I've only scratched the surface of how good I can be, which is kind of why I love this industry too. It's like, as an athlete, I knew there was a very short ceiling of how good I could be at pretty much any sport. And I picked this, and then I picked baseball because it's the one sport where being 5'7" wouldn't hold me back as much as say like basketball or football.
Yeah.
But yeah, no matter how hard you work as an athlete, there's a ceiling to how good you can be. Yeah, there are outliers like Yuki Kawamura in NBA is making it, or in the NBA at like 5'8", but those are few and far between, right? There are outliers. There's definitely a cap to your future as an athlete. I think as like a personal trainer or a coach, there really is no ceiling to how good you can be. You can be as good. You can continue, no matter how good you are, you can continue to learn and get better. That's why, again, going back to all our mentors we follow, like there's like the Nuka hosts of ours out there, Jason Brown, Andrew Coates and everything are at these events, but they're at these events still like sitting in the crowd and taking notes and learning. And it's like, if they're at that experience level, that success and that much knowledge, and they're still trying to learn and get better, we should all be doing the same. Again, so yeah, to go back to the advice, try to find something you love doing and then become the best at it to make a living. Or again, like I said, if that's something that you enjoy doing, doesn't make a living, then find something you don't hate that can provide a living and then do the thing you love.
Yeah, exactly. And like everybody's path is going to be unique and different. And so to compare one person to another person isn't going to work. So you just have to find your best path within yourself. Like be like, am I having a good time? No, what can I do about it? Let's do like 2% to make change. So that's like when people are working a job they don't like, take on some part-time work in the fitness industry and see if you like it and see if it impacts change and just build it up until it slowly takes over, something like that. But all that said, I just want to thank you so much, Blake, for joining me on the show today. You're super flexible with schedule. I ran into a kerfuffle yesterday where I had to reschedule us, and you are a gift to the industry. And I always want to make sure that you know that. So thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me on, sir. I'll be seeing you in less than a month.
Exactly. It's going to be the best.